Hi, everybody. This is Betsy Wurzel, host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio. Jeannie White is the station manager and writes the blog, which I highly recommend you read for valuable information. And if you miss any of this podcast, you can hear it again. I am on all major podcast outlets. I appreciate my guest coming on today. October, which is now more than half over, is Mental Health Awareness Month. Folks, you know, if you listen to my show, I'm a big advocate with mental health, and I encourage people to get counseling, and I encourage people to get help, especially now during this pandemic time when everyone is stressed and feeling isolated. I am proud to have on my guest a fellow New Jersey girl, a New Jersey business, because I'm a New Jersey girl, and I want to welcome Ajita Shah, who is CEO of Innerspace Counseling, located in Old Bridge, New Jersey. So I'm very happy to have a New Jersey business on my show. My show is global,
Betsy.
International. Hi, Ajita. So glad to have a New Jersey business. I'm so glad to be a part of your show. You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm so excited. When I get excited,
Absolutely.
I can't get my words out.
Me too. I'm super excited as well, and thank you for having me. And I'm very excited and also very passionate to talk about mental health. And you know, it's such a necessary topic, I think, right now to talk about, especially with the pandemic. October being Mental Health Awareness Month, and all of the changes I think everyone is experiencing just as a result of the current climate.
Absolutely, Ajita. And I love someone who's passionate about their work because you hear it, and I hear it in your voice. I love that. So how did you start Innerspace Counseling, and what made you start it?
Sure. So I have been passionate about mental health I think my entire life. You know, I've had several family members who've struggled with mental health. So growing up, you know, I saw how, you know, depression, anxiety, you know, poor self-esteem, you know, just difficulty functioning in the real world affected several of my close family members. And I think it really did make me very passionate about wanting to, you know, get into this field and really help people. As far as, you know, how Innerspace came to be, you know, for about 10 years prior to starting Innerspace, I really worked in a multitude of different agencies, inpatient, outpatient, you know, a multitude of different treatment environments. And I found that, you know, there was a sort of a missing piece out there, you know what I mean? Like, people were receiving great care. There was, you know, there are treatment providers, but, you know, there weren't many. And often the ones that were there, you know, were very large. And at some point, agencies, I think, when they get to a certain point in size, you know, can lose that, you know, personal touch or that quality of care. And for me, because I am so passionate about mental health, I really wanted to open up an agency that could serve the community, but really at the same time provide a boutique and personalized care. And, you know, IOPs and partials, which is the level of care of the agency that I have, you know, they're really there to prevent folks from, you know, having to go into the hospital setting, or they're there to help them transition out of the hospital setting so that they can, you know, kind of ease back into their day-to-day routine. And so for me, I felt that it was the best level of care to start with, because we are able to help folks that are in crisis, that are really struggling, and, you know, kind of need something more intensive than just one-on-one therapy, but perhaps, you know, not necessarily the hospital or an inpatient setting, which can oftentimes be scary for folks when they have to consider seeking treatment.
Yes. And I have to ask, so the people know, you serve children to adults.
Yes. So we serve children, adolescents, and adults. We start at age 8, and we work all the way up through adulthood. We treat primary mental health, so depression, anxiety, mood disorders, OCD, all of the different spectrum of mental health diagnoses. We do have a secondary substance abuse track, and that's for folks who primarily are struggling with their mental health but have either by history or a mild secondary substance use issue. We are not a primary substance abuse program, so, folks who have that as their primary focus, we would refer to other programs that we work very closely with. But our niche is really mental health.
I think that is excellent. What is your background, Ajita, as far as your education? I'm nosy.
Sure. No, of course. No, thank you for asking. I received my bachelor's from Rutgers University in psychology. I went on to get my master's from Yeshiva University in the Bronx. So I am born and raised a Jersey girl, and I went to grad school in New York.
All right.
And then after my master's, I did a lot of postgraduate training in DBT, which is Dialectical Behavior Therapy, CBT, which is Cognitive Behavior Therapy, and also motivational interviewing. I am a licensed professional counselor in the state of New Jersey. I'm also a nationally certified counselor, and I actually just completed the necessary postgraduate coursework to receive my approved clinical supervisor certification, which is just another, certification that, allows me to help train others in the mental health field so that, we can really improve and provide high quality care for the community.
Excellent. And your staff, who do you have on your staff? Are they psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers?
Sure. So on my staff right now, I have 2 psychiatrists, one of which is a board-certified child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist. The other one is a general psychiatrist, and they actually treat all of our clients in terms of the medication piece. One thing I'd like to note about our program is that, we're not, a lot of people have a misconception that when you come to programs, they'll kind of throw medication at you, or that's sort of like, you have to take meds, of course, that is an option for folks, you know what I mean? And if we feel that that is something that will benefit someone, then we will definitely discuss it with them. We are by no means, pill pushers or anything like that. We will work with you, and there are a lot of clients who benefit greatly from just the therapy component of program, you know what I mean, and don't necessarily need the medication, but we have the psychiatrist on staff to be able to prescribe medication when it is necessary. Also, we have licensed social workers, we have licensed professional counselors, licensed associate counselors, and licensed clinical social workers on staff. So everyone on our staff is at minimum master's level, and they are licensed in the state of New Jersey to practice counseling. We also have several per diem therapists, some of which are psychologists on staff that assist us with our group therapy and supervision as well. So I think our team is very comprehensive in that sense, and everyone brings to the table different specialties in education. We have folks who are trained in trauma. We have folks who are trained in, cognitive behavior therapy, in dialectical behavior therapy, in, again, motivational interviewing. We have folks who have a variety of experience in, eating disorders, crisis work. So I really try to bring together a team that has multiple skill sets and multiple education backgrounds so that we can really provide comprehensive care. And then, based on the evaluation, we decide as a team kind of who is going to be the best fit for that client in terms of their experience and what the client needs.
Well, that sounds like you have a great place there that's top of the line. For a child, and you're welcome, if a parent is concerned about a child's mental well-being, can they call you or do they need a doctor's referral? I guess it depends on the insurance.
Yeah, I mean, it does depend on the insurance. However, most of the time, a referral is not necessary. Typically, we get, folks find out about us through either their outpatient therapy providers or, like I said, they get referred from, after an inpatient hospitalization stay. Sometimes schools will also refer clients to us. And basically what happens is that when they call, we will get all of their demographic information. We'll verify their insurance, make sure everything is going to be covered. And then we'll do what's called a screening form where one of either myself or one of my other clinicians will get on the phone with the parent and the client. And we will, just basically find out what's going on, ask some, brief questions just to get, a basic history and make sure that, what we offer will be the right fit for that person. We want to make sure that whether it's with us or whether it's with someone else, that we're really offering what is going to be in the best interest of the community. So that screening process is a way for us to gather some information to better understand what is going on, and if through that process we do believe that one of our programs will best suit this person, then we will, schedule them for a full intake evaluation. We'll go through what programs we offer, and, they would basically just start the next program day. And so after the evaluation with the psychiatrist and the intake therapist, they would start the next program day. That first day of treatment, they would meet with the therapist that's going to be assigned to that client. And again, we assign folks based on, who's going to be the right fit for them on our team. And then they will meet with that therapist, and that therapist will do what we call an orientation that will help them, answer any additional questions that they have, kind of go through all of the general expectations, and then get them situated into the program.
That is really, I have like goosebumps because I'm so excited about this. Folks, if you think an 8-year-old, why would an 8-year-old child need help? I'm going to tell you, yes, they do need help. Children do get depressed. Children have anxiety. And if your child comes to you and says they're sad, they need help, I urge you from the bottom of my heart to go seek help. It's nothing to be ashamed of. And Ajita, I find this a lot. People will say, there's nothing wrong with my child, or, my child is fine. It's the pandemic. It's, this, it's that. When should a parent be concerned and call you up when they have a young 8, 9, 10-year-old?
Absolutely. I think that's a great question. And I think that, we do get a lot of parents who kind of call up and say, I don't know if this is right. I don't know if my child needs this or what they need, and, I mean, as a parent, I completely get that. I mean, it's scary. The world of mental health in general is very scary. And I think that, there is a big stigma around it, because, in the past, people have, basically associated, having a mental illness with, being in a psychiatric hospital locked up for, years and years and years. And there's really no lesser degree than that. You know what I mean? And I think that, now it's becoming more commonplace and people are getting more comfortable with the idea of talking about mental health concerns, which I think is a wonderful thing. And in terms of little kids, yes, it is shocking when you see an 8-year-old, feeling depressed or feeling anxious or, having thoughts to harm themselves or, having thoughts to, possibly even end their life. You know what I mean? but it does happen. You know what I mean? Like kids feel emotions sometimes even more intensely than adults feel emotions. And I think that it's hard to tell sometimes when a kid is struggling because the way that they present is a little bit different than an adult. But there are, very common signs, and some of them can be, being more withdrawn or isolated, not necessarily, eating as well, kind of like refusing food and kind of isolating. Sometimes you'll see acting out behaviors. So, getting easily agitated, yelling, kind of shutting down very quickly. It could be something as subtle as not doing things that they would previously have enjoyed. They might previously have wanted to go outside and play, basketball, you know what I mean? But now they're saying, I don't want to do that. I just want to go sit in my room, you know what I mean? Or something else. So when you start to notice, any kind of mood changes, any kind of, isolative behavior, any kind of, change in what they would normally do in terms of their routine. So if they enjoyed something and now they're shying away from that activity, that is another kind of flag to look out for. Any changes in like appetite or sleep, any changes in their frustration tolerance, or like even if they're, not completing assignments or acting out in class or things like that, would be things to question, things to, wonder. And although we offer a very intensive program where folks are, in our program either 3 days a week or 5 days a week, there are multiple levels of care with mental health, you know what I mean? And that's why we do a screening process, because if somebody calls in and I'm screening them and I don't believe that they need such an intensive level of care, then there are outpatient therapists and there are outpatient prescribers that can, they can be referred to that would be able to maybe see them once a week, you know what I mean, or once a month or whatever they need. So it's not mental health is not an all or nothing kind of a thing. There's so many different degrees and so many different levels of care. It's just about taking that first step and, asking for help. And usually the first line of defense for little kids is the pediatrician. So going to the pediatrician and saying, I'm noticing these changes in my child, can you give me a recommendation? And then the pediatrician can say, here's some referrals, or here's some assistance with, getting them to see a therapist. And maybe this first step is just to get them in the door to a therapist that can just see them once a week, that can kind of like get them used to the idea of mental health. And then, of course, if things get worse or they need more support, then there's these other levels of care that can be available to them that can provide more support.
That's really great. On my shows, Ajita, I have constantly said that the stigma of mental health issues and going for therapy has to stop, especially with little boys and with men. Mm-hmm. It's not a weakness. I can't say this enough. It is not a weakness to go for help. It is a sign of strength that you need help, that you recognize that you need help. And parents, please, I beg you, don't dismiss your children's feelings. Like, oh, so, that's no big deal, or, you'll get better. Don't cut out that communication. You're going to be sorry if you do. I'm telling you. You need to have those lines open. If your child comes to you for help, please help them, because it's so important. It's their life. It's their mental health. Get them the help when they're young, and work with the therapist to ensure your child's mental health well-being. I can't even stress that enough. Ajita, do you see more young children now because of the pandemic than before? And how do you treat them now with the pandemic?
So the answer to that question is absolutely yes. We are seeing, an uptick in general of folks that are seeking mental health, because I think, everyone is isolated. It is, because of social distancing and the quarantines and, just everything kind of still being, semi-shut down, slowly starting to reopen, but mostly shut down. We are seeing folks feeling more isolated, more depressed, more anxious, whether they're adolescents or whether they're adults. And I think for kids especially, there is multiple layers of challenge that they have to face because now schooling is virtual. They're not seeing their friends the way that they, previously did. They're not socializing in the same ways. And so, and they're mostly, kind of stuck at home. It's very difficult when you think about the fact that, as adults, our sort of routine says, okay, you get up, you kind of go to work, you are, and that's sort of your, social role in life. For kids, school is their social environment. That's where they, they learn social skills. That's where they engage with their peers. That's where they, that's where they develop and they grow. And to have that taken away, and although they're, doing virtual school, it's definitely not the same. And I think that has definitely had an impact on depression, anxiety, feelings of isolation, lower self-esteem, so a multitude of issues. So I think, especially at our agency, we're seeing a lot more children and adolescents come in, with, different mood issues, depression, anxiety, mood changes, low self-esteem, ineffective behaviors that are, more harmful towards their well-being. And I think that the pandemic has really kind of created that, unfortunately.
Yes, I think, I know you're right. If you have a child who has anxiety, or you're an adult and you have anxiety, or you were prone to depression, this isolation definitely has increased it. And I feel like really bad for the senior citizens who went to the senior centers for socialization, and then, that stopped. So they're not socializing. So it's all ages, all genders are having this increase. And I'm glad to hear more public service announcements for mental health awareness. I'm like, finally, they're saying, go for help. Back in my day, Ajita, I'm 62. I'll be 63 in December. I went for counseling when it wasn't cool. Back in 1974, it was not a cool thing to do, and you did not talk about your problems because that was, airing your dirty laundry, and that wasn't proper back then. But I'm glad to see, finally, that 40-something years later, it's getting acceptable to seek mental health and to have, the ability to share even, I have this mental health issue. I'm going to this place for help. Hey, if you need help, why don't you check out this place?
Absolutely. I think it's great that, people are talking about mental health, that they're accepting it more, that they're, it's not something to be ashamed of. I think it's wonderful when people actively, take a look at their mental health, and really that self-care piece is so important. The brain is like every other organ, the heart, the lungs. There's nothing, in my opinion, there's nothing to be ashamed of. You know what I mean? I think that we all have to take care of ourselves, and part of self-care is recognizing that mental health is a real thing, and it's something to be treasured, taken care of, focused on, and it's and I'm really glad that that's happening now. And just speaking of the pandemic, I think that parents also have to kind of be cognizant of their own mental health, because what they're dealing with now is also very overwhelming. We talk about kids having to do school virtually. Well, parents also have to now help their kids with school virtually. They have to, work from home and, kind of support their child's education. So there's so many different facets here. It's, everyone is being affected in some way, shape, or form. You have the children, you have the adolescents, you have the adults, you have the parents, you have so many different things so many, balls that are juggling in the court, and it can be very overwhelming. And, so I always encourage folks to take time for self-care, take time for, being cognizant of your mental health, because, take time for yourself, and one way that you can help yourself is reaching out for support, getting into therapy, putting yourself first so that you can, be a better sounding board for your environment.
Absolutely. Ajita, I run a support group for caregivers on Facebook. And I tell caregivers, thank you, and I had to learn this the hard way, and I will not ever be silent about this. You have to take care of yourself, whether you're a caregiver or you're not a caregiver. It is not selfish. It's a matter of life and death, and I'm serious. Your quality of life depends on you getting self-care. And
absolutely.
I'm not ashamed to say I went for therapy when my husband was going through his Alzheimer's, and I am in group counseling now. I get it through my senior center, and I tell people all the time, go. I recommend counseling for everybody. I do. It's so helpful. You need sometimes someone to help you put things in perspective that you can't. And it's okay to say, you know what, I need help dealing with this. Even with medication, you talked about medication. Just because you go for therapy, counseling, it doesn't mean that they're going to throw pills at you. I don't take antidepressants.
Absolutely.
That's my choice. And if someone else needs it, then do it. Do what you have to do to help you through this. And I'm sure you've probably seen an uptick with, domestic violence, alcohol abuse, and drug abuse during this time.
Absolutely. I mean, all of these things, there's a definite increase. I mean, people are home. They're isolated. They're in environments that are potentially unsafe, and that's why, in certain areas, in certain communities, the pandemic has had even a harder impact because, there is, like you said, an increase in domestic violence. There's an increase in, substance abuse, and people need help. And I think that the more that we can talk about it, the more that we can make it okay to get that help, and the more that we acknowledge and recognize that, no two people are the same. So help is going to look very different for different people, and that's okay, and there's no, one-size-fit-all for mental health, for addictions, for any of it. And I think that, just if we reach out, and that's, like I said, you can contact your primary care doctor. They can absolutely give you referrals. You can contact, your insurance company. They can also give you a lot of referrals for therapy that are in your network. Psychology Today is a great resource. It's a website that, basically filters counselors by, demographic area, and it gives a brief description about, what their specialties are. Schools are a great resource. Guidance counselors have a lot of resources for youth, and we get a lot of our referrals from guidance counselors. It just basically reaching out. If somebody calls our agency even, and what we offer isn't something that is going to best suit their needs, then we have a list of folks that we can refer them to, and say we can't necessarily assist you because, what you need isn't, part of what services we provide, but here's a list of folks that might be more helpful for you. And so, I think that because mental health has become so much more of a open discussion, I think that there is also so many more options now to get help. So I just ask everyone to please, if you're struggling, if you know someone who's struggling, just please try and get some help, because, I think, mental health is, if not the most important thing, one of the most important things out there to get us through this very difficult time.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Ajita, do you have satellite offices, or are you just based in Old Bridge?
Right now, we're just based in Old Bridge. We don't have any other locations. We're a smaller agency, and I've always wanted to kind of stay that way again for that very boutique sort of personalized experience. So we don't have any other locations. We're not a large agency.
And how would people get in touch with you for a intake?
Sure.
If their child or if they themselves need help.
Absolutely. So they can call our main office. The phone number is 732-332-8270. And they can, just basically call and say, I'm looking for some help. And then our wonderful receptionist will be able to guide them as to the next steps and get them started with the screening process and explain what services that we offer. They can also visit our website, which is www.innerspacecounseling.com, where they can submit an inquiry, and then one of our staff members will give them a call back and then assist them in that way. So that's two ways in which they can reach us and they can get support.
That is awesome. I want to thank you, Ajita Shah, for coming on and talking about your what you have at the Innerspace Counseling, what you offer. I think it's excellent. If you're down in the Old Bridge area, call anyway. Ajita and her staff can refer you to somewhere else. I think it's very important. I think it's time that cultures, I know it's a cultural thing too, especially with men, as a sign of weakness for help. It's not. We need to stop the stigma. And here I'm chatting with Betsy. I blow the lid off. If you hear me, you hear any of my shows, I blow the lid off the taboo. I'm going to keep talking about mental health issues. It's important. Very important.
Absolutely. And
go ahead.
Betsy, I want to thank you for having me on your show and for talking about this, very important topic. And I'm really, as I said, I'm really passionate about mental health, and I really hope that, this will inspire some folks to go out and get some treatment. And like Betsy said, if you, need help, please feel free to give us a call, because even if we can't assist you with what we offer, we will absolutely give you a referral to someone who can. And, that will hopefully help you get one step closer to getting help and feeling better, for sure.
Oh, you're very welcome, Ajita. I love having mental health advocates on. It's very important. It has always been important. I'm glad that if there's anything to be grateful for this pandemic, it's that it's bringing out the need and the acceptance for mental health awareness and to get help. And as caregivers, we know what isolation is about. Caregivers will still face isolation even after this pandemic is over. Caregivers, you need to go for help. Do it. They do it virtual, by phone. You need to help yourself. And I have said this because my heart is for the caregivers. If you want to make it through this journey and make it to the other side, you need to take care of you. It is a matter of life and death. Trust me, I know. I went through the caregiving journey. I'm here to tell you, thank God I made it through the other side. But I made it through by taking care of myself, having a positive mindset, and going for help and I still receive counseling for grief counseling. And if you've lost someone in this pandemic, if you had a death in your family, please call and get grief counseling. Does your place do that, Ajita? Do they do grief counseling?
Grief is one of the topics that we definitely talk about in counseling. Like I said, we're more of a program setting, so we attack a multitude of issues in a very short period of time. So ours is a little bit of a unique sort of setup, but grief is definitely one of the things that we work with folks on processing while they're in the program.
Oh, okay. So that's good to know. If you live in New Jersey, anywhere in New Jersey, call Innerspace Counseling, and they can refer you to a place in your area. I would definitely call. I wish there was a place like this in my youth. I really do. And I worked I'm unemployed right now. I did work in a preschool, and I can tell you that there was children, and I call it the red flags, that they needed help. And unfortunately, parents don't want to admit if their child might have a problem. They think it's a reflection on them. It's not a reflection on you as a parent. If your child is depressed, if your child has anxiety, okay, no one's going to judge you that you're not a good parent. It happens, okay? People of the best homes, best parents, have alcohol and drug problems. It happens, okay? Just admit it and get help. That's what I can't say it enough. And thank you again, Ajita, for coming on, chatting with Betsy. I appreciate it. I want to say thank you to Lillian Caldwell, who sent me the press release about your company. And thank you for accepting. You're welcome.
Thank you for having me, Betsy. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. Folks,
have a great day.
You too. You too. Thank you. This is what Chatting with Betsy is about. Okay? It's about you, the listener, and getting resources to you and places that can help you, because we all need help at some time. We do. And please don't throw stones at people who are getting help, because you don't know what life has for you, and you might need help sometime in your life. Don't judge. Love people, accept people for who they are and where they are in their life. And in a world where you can be anything, please be kind. I want to thank Jeannie White. I want to thank Lillian Caldwell, Passion World Talk Radio, where you had the opportunity to come on and talk and to help others. I love this radio station, and it's a privilege and an honor to be a host on here. Until we chat again, this is Betsy Wurzel, host of Chatting with Betsy at Passion World Talk Radio. I am now heard on Amazon Music, so please subscribe. It's for free. Bye-bye, everybody.